Oh my god, seasonal anime is killing anime, is what I could say. Or sprout some other kind of similar nonsense, because that's the kind of mentality that I've seen in the community far too often over the past number of years. But in some ways, I don't think that we can completely disregard that notion, despite how absurd it might sound initially. The viewer mentality that I've been seeing more and more of is this kind of, hey, what's the new hotness that I need to watch to keep up with the times? And much less of, hey, what's a really good anime that I haven't seen yet? As anime is becoming more and more mainstream, it is evolving and changing to suit the needs of an ever-growing audience. An audience who is used to an industry that is able to keep up with their demands for more anime. And that anime has to be available now. It didn't used to be that way. In North America, we usually had to wait a year plus for new anime series to make their way across the ocean officially, and even then we were limited by what some licensing company decided to be what we wanted to watch. So now instead of an anime fan, you have shonen junkies, slice of life junkies, mecha junkies, idol worshippers, each with their own dedicated community, and they don't necessarily mingle with one another. Like, that's not to say that there's no crossover at all, because that's just blatantly untrue. But what I'm trying to get at is that there is no longer a standardized list of anime that all fans must watch to be considered an anime fan. Now it's much more a social experience. It's about discussing new stuff so that everyone is on a level playing field, and perhaps it's able to avoid the elitism that might come with watching works that have been put up on an unreachable pedestal. It gives you constant opportunities to talk to people and make friends. You have topics readily available to you, which makes it feel like we're all in the same boat. And empathizing with new people is generally easier. Granted, anime has always been a social experience. Like, the reason why I started making videos was because I needed people to talk anime with, and videos were a good outlet for that, but it's become even more important now. Why? Because the weekly watching experience is being marketed by so many outlets as being the closest thing that we can get to just watching anime as a fan in Japan. Not only do the shows come out within an hour or so of airing over there, streamed in high definition, but voice actors, animators, and creators from Japan are all over social media now, and their comments, interviews, and impressions can be translated a lot quicker than they ever could be before. So we kind of get the impression that we are a part of their direct audience rather than a secondary audience specified by wherever we happen to live. On top of which, time is precious. There is a lot of shit to watch and only so much time to do it. And really, what sounds more important? A show that's currently airing that all of your friends are watching and talking about? Or a show from 20 years ago or so that's mentioned occasionally, but even some of your other friends haven't seen it? As much as some of us like to say that watching a classic like Cowboy Bebop is a thing that everyone does, if no one in your specific circle of friends holds it in high regard, then you wouldn't really have a reason to watch it out of obligation now, do you? These olden goodies may have had the time to age like a fine wine, but nowadays the notability of an anime gets refreshed every 4 months.
なんだって？春が過ぎて夏も終わり、また冬になったってんだからたまげたねどうも。
Think of this as a replacement for what used to be known as the Big Three, like Bleach, One Piece, and Boruto's dad. Those shows maintained massive popularity for so many years because they were a constant, and the fans of those shows never really had a breather to not talk about them. Now, the seasonal cycle itself is the gift that just keeps on giving, but for an individual IP to stick out in this cavalcade of content, it has to have its hand on the pulse of this pattern.
Now for a lesson.
My Hero Academia's popularity has exploded earlier this year with the airing of its second season, mostly because there was a gap of only 1 year since its previous season. Compare that to Attack on Titan, which had a 4-year gap between seasons 1 and 2. No matter how big it was back in 2013, and it was pretty big, it seemed to be barely a fraction of that in 2017. Heck, even Sword Art Online has actually managed to maintain popularity better than Attack on Titan, with new releases and relatively recent intervals throughout the years. It's still relevant to a large amount of fans. Take this year alone, 2017, we have had the release of the film, Ordinal Scale, at the start, and just recently we had the announcement of a Season 3 and a spin-off. In contrast, we can just think back to the big anime of even last year, in 2016. How many people are still talking about ReZero, or hell, Erased? It doesn't matter largely for the anime fans who were watching those shows when they were airing, but if you just got into anime in the middle of 2016 after Erased ended, how inclined might you be to go and watch it when everybody else has started to move on? Even the success of Yuri on Ice has only really kept it within its own dedicated fanbase and probably won't start spreading again until the movie. However, a lot of seasonal anime regurgitates popular trends, so the classics by comparison appear unique. They contain what used to be popular trends, but are no longer, as well as the origins for other trends. Different takes that you might not see come out in shows now because, well, it's been done before. But this is sort of why people like me got into watching anime to begin with. Anime is full of things that Western cartoons and live-action films don't have. So, is anime like Hollywood now, where the classics are the niche? Will classic anime become its own genre soon? Has it already done so? Like, it saddens me that Made in Abyss just finished about 3 weeks ago or so. But what little discussion I used to see is now barely a drop in the bucket. It has all of the makings of a classic, but it just doesn't seem to have that opportunity to become one because of the seasonal cycle. Is that fair? It certainly isn't something that I'd wish upon any of my old favorites, now that I think about it. Some shows have inherent qualities that allow them to weather this storm because of how they are structured. Like, for example, arcs in anime, especially shonen anime, are not necessarily new, but the way that shows like Hiroaka and SAO present them really benefits from this social change. Their stories and their arcs work in a way where, if marketed well, they can be cleanly separated into adjacent seasons. However, they still flow naturally. SAO works by dividing arcs into seasons and storylines based on new video games that the characters get tossed into. My Hero Acca is a little less clean-cut than that, but it has very strong and clear finishes to its arcs. It doesn't really try to blend them all that smoothly, but it doesn't need to. If anyone wonders why I occasionally go off the rails for a few weeks and do videos on shows that nobody has seen in years, like Aria and Eureka 7 and the entirety of Gundam, this is my little way of, like, counterbalancing this wave. I like the ability to appreciate what has come before, so that it might give me a new perspective on what's to come. Ultimately, I don't think that the seasonal cycle is really killing classic anime, because they will always be there. However, I think it's much fairer to say that it is killing the potential for things to become classics. What we are witnessing is the depreciation of the very term classic, something that has lasting value. Instead, all we want is something that has value and that literally lasts. As for everything else, well, forgetting has never been easier.
I'm not gonna
The Archer class really is made up of archers.
みんな好きだった。
And that's it from me. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I would like to thank my patrons for supporting these videos, as without you, they would not be possible. In particular, I would like to thank Joshua Garcia, Yunru, Dover Queen, Robert Chumzai, Calhoun Boy, Siri Yamako, and Victor Ekmark for being especially awesome. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, stay frosty.